to the Point of Impact podcast with Rick McDaniel. Thanks for joining us today. Get ready to be inspired and motivated to live a high-impact life. Now, here's Rick.
Welcome to the Point of Impact podcast. I'm Rick McDaniel. Thanks for joining us again this week. And we're going to start a new focus today on the seasons of life. Last year, probably like last fall or something, I just sort of in one episode just made kind of an offhand comment about seasons of life. And I said, I should do something about that sometime. And so here we are. That is that sometime where we're going to spend several episodes kind of focusing on the seasons of life and essentially looking at it from the standpoint of the seasons, the natural seasons, the spring and summer and fall and winter. And then that season of transition, which is a fascinating season. That'll be a very interesting episode. That'll come at the end of this series of episodes. We're going to begin with the season of effort because I do think that is a good time to start with. What is it like when you're really in that season? I will say that I'm not going to do the seasons in order of the natural seasons. I will tell you that because I think this is the natural one to start with, this summer season of effort. But then I think that season, winter season of waiting is very difficult. And then the spring season of pressure. And then finally the fall season, the fun season, the harvest season, when things all come together. But we don't go from summer to fall, I don't believe, many times in life. I realize the natural seasons go that direction, but it's really not been my experience. That usually the work is followed by the waiting, which is then followed by the pressure, which is then followed by the harvest. And so that's the direction we'll go, and then talk about the transitions. Before we jump in, let me just say something about my YouTube channel. Done a couple of updates to it, and I think it's worth revisiting again, becoming a subscriber to it. But the new video, which a lot of people really like, I like it. It's really cool. We shot it down at the James River in Richmond, Virginia, here where I live, and it's really nice, and it's a great little 2-minute motivation on Greater and the Greater message and my book Greater. So I would encourage you to go on YouTube and watch that. I think you'll like it. I think you'll enjoy it. And 2 minutes is certainly a short time. You will see then that there are over 50 videos, close to 60, and that they range from a short one like the 2-minute one all the way to a full-blown message, which might be like 35 minutes long. So depending on what you're looking for, what topic, what theme, whether you have time for a full message or you just want, there's one that's 2 minutes. There's one that's like 10 minutes that's called Dream. That's really inspirational, motivational if you've got a dream and you're challenged by it. But there's lots of great content on there that covers relationships and a lot of good stuff, and you can just type in Rick McDaniel. I'll be the one that comes up on YouTube, and then you can go to the YouTube channel and watch whatever it is that you might be interested in or that you are looking for. And I would just say to you, I think you'll be wise to subscribe, so then anything new that comes out automatically, like all the people that are subscribers, when this new video posted, they're all going to get it. So why not be in line as well to take advantage of that? So go to the YouTube channel, and I think you'll, again, especially those of you that listen to this podcast and you've never heard me speak, and it's always funny when it's the opposite. People have heard me speak, listen to the podcast, and it's different. Talking just into a mic and on subjects is not the same as being on a stage and speaking in front of a large number of people. And so there's a different energy and there's a different focus when you talk about those sorts of messages, because they're tighter and we can be a little more free flowing in this podcast. Now, look, I think both are great. I don't think you should have to choose between one or the other. I think you can enjoy both. But if you've only been enjoying this podcast and you've never heard me do a message, then you should definitely check that out. I think you'll enjoy that as well. So a new series of episodes we'll call seasons. Just as there's natural seasons, right? There are life seasons, there are spiritual seasons, and just like the natural seasons have different characteristics, the same applies to the spiritual seasons of life. They're both identical in that way, and the natural just gives us kind of a pattern, a model, and I just think that you can't go very far in life where you don't hear someone say, I'm in this season or I'm in that season. I've talked many times about being in a season or going through a season. And what's nice is that instead of just like a quick reference to it, let's dig in. I mean, that's the beauty of podcasts, right? We can take half an hour and dig into a subject and explore it in greater depth than just, a few comments or just a couple paragraphs written. And so that's what we'll do. We'll look at all the seasons in detail. And as I just said, each one to me is unique. This season is really a season of work and effort. The summer season, you're sweating, you're putting in the time. And then the winter season is a time when it's cold and there's not much happening and you have to wait. And then the spring season is that time when things are trying to spring forth and burst forth. And in that season, there can be a lot of pressure because a lot of things can happen in a spring season that are unusual, that, this is when you can have these odd kind of weather events and things can be unusually cold or unusually warm and just all kinds of things can take place. And by the way, we are now in the spring season, and some of you may be like, what? It's still March. We're in the spring. It's still cold. Yeah, exactly. That's why that spring season is an unusual season, fascinating season. And you'll see some of the parallels, and I think it'll really help you. And then the marvelous season that everyone wishes that could be the only season, which is the harvest season. And all that work and all that waiting and all that pressure you go through and stress, and then it all results in something really marvelous. But it takes time to get there. And then that, I believe, it's an entire season all to itself, which is the season of transition. These seasons are cyclical, you'll experience them many times in your life. So they don't follow the natural calendar. I mean, you could be in a summer season for, a couple of years, for instance. So they're not like 3 months long. But what I will say is that it's cyclical, and throughout the course of your entire life, you'll have multiple seasons. So the summer season is the season of effort. I believe this is the season of great, effort and work. And so it's a season where, you're really going after it, and you have a lot of expectations. You'll also experience a lot of frustrations. I mean, that's it. That's that season. And you're like, oh man, I'm in it right now. Yeah, I'm sure many of you are. Now, it might be like an intensive work project. Like maybe you're just on something and you're just pouring so much work and effort into it. You're just working so hard, trying to, figure it out, trying to make it happen, going through a variety of steps and processes. And it's hard. It's a lot of extra hours. And really just a lot of effort. There's just no other way to say it. When I started a church from scratch, that is exactly what I encountered. It was incredible. And that, by the way, that season, that wasn't like 3 months or a couple of years. It was like, oh boy, at least 5 years. 5 years of intense work. When you have to start something from nothing, when there's nothing, you have to create the inertia and get it going and get it moving. That is something that is really, really hard to do. I worked probably 80 to 90 hours a week, never took a true day off. I would work any day of the week necessary to make it happen. That doesn't mean I was in the office, but of course you have church services on Sundays, and then you have office, but even Saturday, man, we would do so many different events, or I'd be involved in so many different things in the community, trying to meet people and get the name of our church out there. Man, it was a lot. It was a lot a lot. And I started the first contemporary style church in Central Virginia, so people were not familiar with it at all. They thought it was strange. I know today a lot of folks go to churches where there's live bands and where there's a more casual atmosphere, and the music is really contemporary. There's screens, there's lights, there's smoke, there's all that stuff. But 30 years ago, man, that was completely foreign to people. So I had that battle as well. Now, you may be like in the season, like with young children. I mean, it's an incredibly demanding season. It's just so much work when their tiny lives completely and totally depend on you. And so you've got so much that you have to do for them. And then your sleep patterns are certainly not the same. It's such an enormous change from, say, being a married couple without children to children. It's a massive difference, just an absolute massive difference between those two things. They are not the same in so many ways. They differ. So you find yourself in that kind of experience, and you're like, wow, this is an unbelievable amount of work. And but again, anything worth having is worth working for, and a family is definitely something you want to have. In fact, I wrote about it last year at Mother's Day, about younger women and motherhood, and how impacting it is and valuable it is to your life, and how you don't want to miss it. And I just couldn't stress it enough. Really, it's really a shame when we have this kind of shift where maybe it's not worth having kids. Kids are, the Bible says they're a blessing from the Lord, and blesses the person that has Bible says, blessed is the man that has a quiver full. That would mean like a quiver full of arrows in his, like what would it be like, to have 6 arrows, for instance. That's kind of the picture there of what it would be like, that you could fire off multiple arrows. And that's the imagery, blessed is a man, a woman that has children and has a bunch of kids. Now, it's certainly expensive to have children. I'm not advocating that everyone should have 6 kids, but I am advocating for children. I think that you would miss out greatly in life without it. But I will not deny in any way, shape, or form the work involved in doing that. I would say it's worthwhile work, but it's still a season of great effort. Here would be another one, like say you've decided to finally get yourself right physically, like you finally decided that you are going to take your physical health seriously. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of effort. You have to get to the gym. You've got to spend time in the gym. I know there's people that say, well, just 20 minutes, but I don't think that's accurate. I have someone who's worked out their whole life, former athlete, and I work out in a more succinct way now than I have in the past, but even still, there is no way you could talk about going to a gym and working out for 20 minutes and expecting that somehow is going to work. It doesn't work that way at all. I think you really got to put in a minimum of an hour, and probably more like an hour and a half to really. So you can see what that would be like if you did that multiple 3-4 times a week, 5 times a week, whatever it might be. And then of course the whole eating side of things, because what you really find is you have to do some type of meal prep, or you're just going to bounce around, because then you don't have a plan and you're not prepared, so you eat the things you shouldn't eat. So you've got to invest that time as well. This is not the Uber Eats and DoorDash kind of way. That beyond being incredibly expensive and I think irresponsible financially, just too much money to spend on that. But that's not going to get you where you want to get to. So there's an enormous amount of effort. There's just no way of denying these things. They take an enormous amount of effort and work. And if you're in that season, it is a season of sweat. Like you're sweating, you're working. It's happening. And again, we could add many other activities or endeavors. You could talk about mental health. What is it like to go to a therapist and to work on changing patterns? That is not easy. That is work. We could talk about something like writing a book like I've done 9 times, and I just finished writing a chapter for a book that I was asked to contribute to an anthology, like a book, that has like 13 chapters, and each chapter's from a different author. And man, whether it's 1 chapter or 13 chapters, it's so difficult. It's so hard. It takes so much work and so much effort to be able to do it. There's just no way around it. So you name it what it is, and you're going to end up in the same place. It's a season of effort. That's what it is. There's no change that you can make to somehow change that. That's what it is. It's a season of effort. So you've got to find the right energizers. You've got to be energized. If you're putting in that kind of work and that kind of effort, then the only way you're going to be able to stick with it and be successful in it is if you find those energizers. You find those things that will keep you energized so that you're able to stay after it. You're able to stay after it. And I think that one of those is definitely a right perspective. To have the right kind of perspective. And it's easy to lose your perspective in times of great effort. So you have to be able to get to 30,000 feet and be able to look down. Not to be on ground level where you miss the forest for the trees. You need to elevate up and be able to look down so you can see it. When you're in it, it's like, it's never going to change. I'm never going to get in shape. I'm never going to lose this weight. This book is never going to get written. These kids, when are they ever going to be in a place where I'm not constantly needed by them? These are the sort of thoughts that go through your mind, like, this too will pass. It's a true statement. It's because it's true. Like, things are hard and then they're not. It's a season, and seasons end. So you just have to remind yourself, if you're in it right now, you're like, maybe it's the first time you ever listen to this podcast. You're like, I can't believe I stumbled upon this. I guess God really directed me here today, because I'm just like working and like overwhelmed. The season ends. That's why they're called seasons. They have a beginning point. They have an ending point. I would say another energizer is keep your eye on the prize. There is a purpose for all the hard work. There is a purpose for it. Don't ever forget it. Don't ever let it escape your conscious mind. There's a reason for this. I read this the other day by a fiction author, but writing is writing, nonfiction, fiction, who happens to be coming to our community, and her name is Ruth Reichel, and this is what she said. She said, I will do anything to avoid sitting down at the computer. Then she went on to say, having written is the best feeling on earth, but making that happen is really hard. There you go. That's it. She was editor-in-chief of Gourmet Magazine. She was a restaurant critic for the New York Times. She was a food editor for the Los Angeles Times. So she's written those sorts of articles, written books. She has a new book out called The Paris Novel. So she knows of what she speaks, and I concur 100% with that statement. I'll do anything to avoid sitting down at the computer. Having written is the best feeling on earth, but making, making that happen is really, really hard. And it is really, really hard. And there's just no way to change that. There's no way to make it anything different than that. It is super hard. I had someone ask me to talk with them about writing, and they want to launch into a writing career, and there's just no way to tell someone things that aren't true. And what's true is it's very difficult. But there is nothing like the feeling of holding a book in your hand that you wrote. There's nothing so great as to be able to send out to everybody the article that you wrote that's on the website or in the magazine or journal or whatever the case may be. So keep your eye on the prize. Another energizer is having encouraging people. You need encouraging people around you, because they're the people that will encourage you and build you up when you're working so hard. So you've got to have those folks in your life. You've got to have them. You've got to find the people that will encourage you to keep after it and keep going. The sort of people that are not envious or jealous, and they're not haters. They're for you. They're excited for what's happening in the changes that are taking place in your life and what you're doing. So get the right perspective. Keep focused on the ultimate prize that is going to come from it. Get encouraging people around you. Now, in regards to the effort itself, don't take shortcuts. Don't take shortcuts. Everyone likes them, get rich quick. Yeah, it's marvelous. It's phenomenal. What would be so great? Get healthy quick. Same thing, but those things generally don't work. And if something like lose weight quick but not get healthy, and then it comes back, you have to do the work to get to the harvest. That's it. If you want to get to the harvest season that we'll get to in several weeks, and that will be fun to talk about, but you don't get to the harvest without doing the work. You can't reap a harvest if you don't plant seeds. In the Bible, it's simply called sowing and reaping. You sow, then you reap. That's the law of the harvest. It's a natural law, and it's a spiritual law as well. You can't reap if you don't sow. Sowing is the effort. Sowing is the hard work. There's just no way around it. So let's talk about the 10,000 hour rule, the 10-year rule. Let's just talk about that for a moment, because I think it's important. That vast evidence research shows that you need around 10 years of hard work before you become world class. The research called the 10-year rule. The best people in any field are those who devote the most hours to what you would call deliberate practice. That's it. In virtually every field of endeavor, most people learn quickly at first, then more slowly, and then they stop developing completely. Oh boy, we'll circle back on that in a moment. Nobody is great without work. Talent, in many ways, is the smallest part of greatness. You can make yourself into any number of things, and greatness is one of them, but it will take you effort. Now, the other one is Erickson's, which was made famous by Malcolm Gladwell, the 10,000 hour rule, and he used the Beatles as an example. But the idea is that it takes 10,000 hours of deliberate practice to become proficient in something. So think about 10,000 hours. If you know the Beatles story, Liverpool and all that stuff, but what you may not know is that they spend a good deal amount of time in Germany playing in small venues, bars, whatever, in Germany, perfecting their craft before they ever ultimately made it and launched onto the world scene and the Ed Sullivan Show in America and all that stuff. They had to put in the time. It's just, if you're going to do any task, have any goal, you've got to work at it and get better at it. That's just it. Here's the thing. Work is hard enough, but it's not enough, actually. You have to push even harder. The extra steps are difficult and painful, but they're the ones that ultimately lead to the success. The critical reality is we're not hostage to some sort of naturally granted level of talent. We can make ourselves into something, but it will require a level of effort and work that is really, really, really significant. You will be sweating. This then has to do with excellence, like giving it your best effort, doing your best, not simply working. Oh, I'll just, I work. How come? No, it's not just work. It's like hard work. It's the perspiring work. In fact, there's a word in the Bible for work, and then there's another word for hard work. They're two different words. And the Bible says the hardworking farmer is the first to get his share of the crops. Like, if you want to be first, it's not work, it's hard work that gets you to be first. If you want to be the best, you have to do your best, and you have to have excellence as your standard. Now, back to what I said earlier, because this is really the key thing. It's the principle of finishing. In virtually every field of endeavor, right? Most people learn quickly at first, then more slowly, and then they stop developing completely. So you can't just start stuff, you have to finish stuff. You have to be a finisher. Famous scripture in the Bible, and Paul says, I finished the race. I didn't just start it, I finished it. I fought the good fight. I battled and I finished. It's about finishing, and finishing is about continuing to give the effort, not the quick learning at first, then more slowly, then stopping, but continuing to learn, continuing to grow, continuing to have that kind of growth mindset, so that you say 10,000 hours, a lot of work that's got to go into this, and I'm on 1,000 hours, and that seems like a lot, but that's only 10% of the way there. So you just got to stay after it and say, I'm going to see it through. I'm going to be faithful. I'm going to be committed. I'm going to keep after it. So if you are in this season right now and you're just weary because you've been working hard and you're sweating, and man, it's difficult. And what I would say to you, one final thing besides what I've already said is, sometimes that's what vacations are for. Sometimes you just need to take a break and energize. And that's what I did. That's what I've done consistently, is work really hard and then take a break and get re-energized to go back after it again. So maybe you're missing that, and you're saying, well, I can't take a break because I've started this or whatever. I started stuff too, many things. Again, 7 organizations I've started, 9 books I've written. So, been there, done that. And I'm telling you, there's a way to find breaks where you can rest and rejuvenate to get back into it. So that might be a little extra bonus key for you today, is maybe that's what you haven't been doing. But I'm telling you, friends, if you're in this season, it's a great season. It's a great season. Don't think of it as like hard. Think of it as, this is hard work, yes. But It will result in a harvest. If you sow, you will reap. And you will be so happy when the harvest comes, when the reaping comes, when the success comes, when all the accolades come, when all the rewards come. Stay after it. Stay in this season until the season's done. Have a great week.
You've been listening to the Point of Impact podcast with Rick McDaniel. Thanks for tuning in, and we look forward to you joining us for our next episode.